As a new player in the Doom franchise, Doom Eternal is a really fun arena shooter.
You have tiny meat, yes?
The challenge may be a bitch at first when you start the game, but adapting your skill is what makes the experience so rewarding.
Perfect. Yeah.
The platforming felt new, especially after watching like how Doom 2016 was. Bosses and Slayer rooms kept me on my toes. The music was kick-ass as per usual. Overall, it resulted in a really good successor to the franchise, and I hope the future Doom games will prosper. In the midst of the hype and people enjoying themselves as the game was released, there had been some invalid criticisms that has been surfacing. It just seems as though people are just illustrating that Doom Eternal is a shell of its former self compared to how it was in the past. So, if I'm going to be honest here, Doom put forth what rendered the previous game so legendary. And the new stuff really stood on its own. Like, there's no denying that at all. So, let's go ahead and take a look at some Metacritic reviews that say otherwise, and hopefully we'll have some further insight. Unnecessary rock, paper, scissors mechanics in a shooter. Always low on ammo in order to enforce the first point. Infinite spawn of enemies in order to address the second point. Unnecessary rock, paper, scissors mechanic in a shooter. What do you think, Doom Eternal is just Company of Heroes? Where it's actual strategy, turn-based combat? Like, Doom Eternal, FPS shooter, Company of Heroes, strategy. Do you think they just come hand in hand there? You think they're just strategic? No. Doom Eternal's always been about action, little downtime, and effective upgrades. Always low on ammo to enforce the first point. Chainsaws work. Even if you run out of fuel, it regenerates itself. Those very weak enemies, like the undead, the gargoyles, are there for a reason. They infinitely come in to help you as a player. So for you to just say I can just kill them indiscriminately, and then when I run out of ammo, that's it. I'm always low. Forget it. Forget using the chainsaw. What's all that about? No, dude. Come on. I hate Eternal's design decision, which I fully qualify as an authoritarian gaming wooden. It feels like a cheap design. There's no flow, and by the time you get to the end of the game, you're cycling through all the same stuff anyway because there's no choice other than max out your DPS and get armor in the process. I loved 2016, and having finished Eternal, the gameplay isn't the only issue I have with Invisible Walls. 2016 got flanderized in Eternal. There's no story. It's a joke. It's being fourth wall broken. It's very meta compared to how it was in 2016. 2/3 of the levels don't really sell anything about the world. They make you feel nothing. Okay, you know what? There have only been a small minority of people who are genuinely interested in Doom's lore. I'm not really invested in the lore or the story of Doom. Only being a very casual player. I've only played 2 games in my entire life. I am no expert here, so just take this lightly. But I personally am not interested in just investing in a story where you're playing a game that's very straightforward, very arena-based, ripping and tearing. It's been about brutality. Meh, it hasn't impressed me much. If you're expecting as good or better than Doom 2016, this is not going to deliver. Very disappointed. Graphics are cartoonish. Too much damn jumping. Ammo management was irritating, although not impossible. This was a waste of my Saturday and $60. It's a little harsh, but I cannot stress further enough that you could just be adaptive and use the chainsaw. And traversing is definitely, by far, a new thing compared to 2016. But it works. It's to keep the player thinking and to keep the player, have their reflexes going, have their adrenaline going, even when you're just traversing throughout the map. You will come across a lot of combat encounters. That's what it's all about. But, you gotta work hard by traversing to them. It's based on that, based on challenge, based on thinking. It's not just about, oh man, I can't get ammo for nothing. Oh no. Boring, repetitive, brain-dead game for brain-dead people. Another example of all hype and no substance. Casual game for casual gamers. So you're attacking the community you supposedly belong to, huh? Alright then, it's whatever. I ain't gonna fault you for that. You know, that's your thing. Now, of course, the entry has undoubtedly caused a divide within the fan base of Doom, but I really want to address this one particular review that was in my recommended. This guy, he is a professional reviewer, a connoisseur of video games. He is the mold of a game journalist. And when I do mean mold, I mean game journalist, upper echelon gaming. I'm familiar with upper echelon gaming and his content, but I don't really necessarily follow the game journalism like circuit of YouTube, because I don't follow that anymore, you know, like I've grown out of it. But like I said, I've seen this review in my recommended just about a week after I've reached the Icon of Sin, which is the final mission of the game. And I've clocked in over 30 hours on Steam. So I'm like, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and see what people are saying about this game now that it's been in the market, it's been fermented there, and people have had their own experiences. So let's go ahead and give it a go.
I am not in love with Doom Eternal at all. It's got some great aspects, certainly more good than bad, and at the end of this video, I will genuinely recommend it for a certain demographic of gamers. Spoiler, I liked it enough to do that, and I'll explain thoroughly why in just a minute, but I will not just be sucking this game's dick like I've seen so many other people doing over the past few days.
I'm not sure if just enjoying the game and having rational, concise points as to why they like it really counts it as, like, sucking its dick. Like, people invest their time, they think about it, and then they're able to pretty much come up with a thesis, whether they liked it or not, you know? And that's basically the healthy discussion of video game topics. But don't get me wrong, though, I love a good dumpster fire when it comes to debating a game. You know, it spawns so much laughter, interaction, and insight to the other end of the stick. I'm just making this video to throw my hat in the ring and hopefully keep that fire going, keep the conversation going, because this one is particularly funny to me. I'm going to tell you why a little bit later on in the video. Now, I'll also list his pros for the sake of brevity and, you know, make sure I'm placing the facts here. Caught up to speed? Good, let's keep going.
So, narrative and sound design, good and great, but now it's time for gameplay and progression. This is where I will not just be singing praise for the title, because the truth is, despite a fantastic loop of basic combat, there are horribly designed aspects that destroy the pacing and ruin the overall flow of what is otherwise probably one of the best shooters to come out in many years.
Well then, if you say so, let's go ahead and explore this upper echelon gaming. Let's keep on exploring.
The basic loop is actually pretty simple. Bounce from demon to demon, ripping their heads off or eviscerating them with cinematic glory kills to regain health, or disemboweling them with your chainsaw for ammo. This works really, really well in the early stages of the game. As you progress, you are also unlocking various new weapons, some of which are ridiculously overpowered in the best possible way, but the further you go, the longer the individual rooms get. The more larger demons come out, and the harder it gets to enjoy the actual intended gameplay loop without points of severe tedium.
The game mechanics are still there, they just didn't really switch up like how you just seem they are. You know, even if there are new demons showing up as you keep going.
Because your ammo recharge is tied directly to chainsaw kills, and for some reason ammo pickups on the ground, especially in heavy combat rooms, are less than plentiful, you will need to be conserving chainsaw fuel for the right moments. However, because of how annoyingly long some of these fights are, especially when you get to the point where marauders show up, but that's a whole separate topic I'll get to in a minute, you are going through ammo faster than you can get it back.
Chainsaw kills are essential, yes they are, duh, no brainer. However, when you're out of fuel, it's not the end of the world, it's not game over. You can't reload, you're not gonna just reload to your last checkpoint when you're out of fuel. You know, it regenerates itself, and then once you find an undead, or even like a gargoyle, you know, you use the chainsaw to like pretty much regain ammo. You know, you just leave those guys alone until the bigger guys are down. You know, you're just wasting your time and energy on lower enemies, more vulnerable enemies, just for health and armor. It's good to use them as armor and health, but you know, commonly they're used for ammunition purposes. I may not be the best Doom player out there, but as a non-veteran Doom player, I can tell you that this specific way is best for just surviving and getting to the end of the game just like that, or even fighting the Icon of Sin, which I'm doing currently.
Another exacerbating factor is wave-based combat. Pretty much all of your major encounters are just wave-based combat of the same enemies over and over in a single room. That's not to say that the combat isn't fun, because it is, and despite the fact there is a huge amount of enemy archetype repetition, they still feel just as good to glory kill as ever before.
Just look at the way he plays. It's like he's in dire need of health and ammo when they tell you how to do it. He's even attempting to use a chainsaw on an what's it called again? Arachnotron, which is the big spider. That's just so funny. Now, about the wave-based combat he's talking about, it's the combat encounters that you come across during the campaign. There is versatility in enemy types. It's giving you like opportunity to stock up on armor, ammo, and health. It's a no-brainer. So, even when you're stocking up, it helps you like face the challenging enemies out there. That's the essence of it. Ever since 2016 came out, it's always been an arena shooter since 2016. You're slaying enemies to progress. I mean, like, it doesn't follow the linear fashion like how it did back in the day. This is most certainly new. It's a new formula. They're still trying to work out the kinks, I'm guessing.
The thing that really pushed me over the edge, though, were Marauders. Marauders are an elite enemy that is just awful, and I mean really, truly awful. At first, when you fight one as if it's a main boss, it's challenging and very fun, actually, but then they start showing up at the end of multi-wave rooms. Keep in mind, ammo trouble is a very real thing at this point. These Marauders either throw shockwaves at you from range, shoot you with a shotgun up close, or swing at you with an axe while at mid-range. The horrible part is that they also have a completely invulnerable red shield that they can pull out in a split second whenever they want, which effectively makes you waste what little ammo you have left.
I've had my plights with Marauders while playing, keyword, like I said, it's had, but, you could have just become traditional and follow the super shotgun tutorial. Just, when fighting the Marauders, just shoot them when the eyes are green, keep your distance, and shoot that damn dog. That's it. That's what you gotta do. But you just sit there and like you use the combat shotgun and the rocket launcher, and they're weak. They're weak weapons. Like when fighting the Marauders, like you can't really sit there and say, oh man, I'm just gonna use the rocket launcher because since it's an explosive weapon, hopefully that'll hurt them. No, I mean like. The super shotgun isn't the only method out there. There is the plasma rifle's microwave beam that can take them down, and there's also the ballista. And if you're really having trouble, like seriously having trouble fighting the Marauders, BFG or Crucible, that's it. That's just the end of the story, Just stay away from the rocket launcher and the combat shotgun when fighting Marauders, especially online, because there will be people who use Marauders online. They sweat. And you are most certainly going to have a hard time fighting Marauders who are actual players. So, just going to throw that out there.
I know some contrarian edgelords in the comment section will be like, well, you just need to do this and that and the other thing and blah, blah, get good, scrub. Well, sure, whatever.
At least those contrarian edgelords you seem to be, not a fan of. They can kill the Marauders. I've pretty much proved this point by throwing suggestions, sure, but this footage makes him look like he's playing like a child. Actually, you know what? I'll take that back. I redact that. I'll retract what I said. Maybe children could be better than upper echelon gaming, because like he doesn't seem to understand how to play the game. It is so weird.
This might not have mattered as much if half the game was not very simple wave-based combat just in the next room over and over. There is very little deviation from that formula, and the other half is platforming and puzzle mechanics to get to the next wave-based room. Now, oddly enough, contrary to what I've seen from a few other creators, I actually liked the platforming in a lot of instances. I never really found myself struggling to find the next area to jump to. It might take a little bit of time, but I always got there, and then it was reasonably difficult while not feeling impossible to do so. There is quite a bit of platforming, wall jumping, and timed air dashing to get from place to place, but at least for me, that wasn't really a low point. It certainly wasn't a high point for the game, but it felt very obvious that a good amount of work had been put into these mechanics.
Then why are you bringing up this point that you're projecting that there's puzzle-based traversing as a negative experience, but somehow see it as a positive? I don't understand why that's an issue. Actually, you know what? To prevent myself becoming very furious, I'm just going to throw that into the positives. Fuck it. I'm not. This guy cannot make up his mind. He just can't.
There is another set of unlockables that augment health, armor, and certain abilities when paired up, and then there is your fortress, which has various items and doors that get unlocked with batteries. All of these things can have a definite tangible impact on character power, but when so much of the core gameplay loop can be boiled down to getting glory kills to recharge health, especially on harder difficulties, you have to be doing this constantly, and chainsaw kills for ammo, of which you run out way too often, most of these perk upgrades and wheel upgrades and weapon mods really aren't going to help you.
I've just about had enough. Here's the rest of his gripes, if you're really interested in that. Suffice to say, you know, he got flamed by his audience and fans of Doom Eternal. And then after being called out by the general public, he just proceeds to make a video about how criticism in a video game is very necessary. Now, I'm not going to respond to the full thing, but I will talk about key points that are very important to me. You know, much like how he cherry-picked a lot of, you know, things that are bad about Doom Eternal when really he's just reaching, you know. So I might as well reach myself, you know. I might as well just, you know, do the same thing here.
I myself habitually and intentionally focus on criticism for one very important reason. That reason is customer value. Having the platform that I do, there is an actual tangible and measurable effect on certain gamers' lives. When I say this is amazing or I recommend that game, a notable number of players will quite literally purchase the product based on that recommendation.
What is it with YouTubers trying to destroy their own career? Like, you make one bad review and then all of a sudden you are just attacking the entire world who would disagree with you. And then, like, you treat them like they can't comprehend what you're saying, and then you're deflecting with your bubble of overflowing ego. Like, sure, you're setting yourself apart from mainstream reviewers online, you know, like the websites, Kotaku, Polygon, that sort of thing. But just think about it, you know, look at your numbers. You're also mainstream. You're over 100K, and you've really fallen ill to, like, mainstream mentality.
To be clear, this is not abstract or disconnected. The responsibility is directly on me because my words were the catalyst, resulting in their decision to spend money. This means that when I recommend a game, I need to possess absolute clarity of confidence that it is the right thing to do. And not only that, but I must also be certain I provided them with enough information to ensure they are properly equipped for that decision.
If you are specifically bad at Doom Eternal Upper Echelon, do not feel obligated to make a review. You know, because it was too hard for you. And then you're just bashing it. Like, oh man. I'm not saying you should make reviews though, but be ready for the criticism to come towards you for people who are more proficient at the game than you. And also, do not make a follow-up as to why your criticisms are considered innovative.
However, the immutable truth is that no reviewer is an amalgamation of public opinion or consensus 100% of the time.
So if one reviewer isn't a figure for public opinion and people will constantly follow through with said review, then why did you make this video? Like, to say that you are the figure of public opinion? Or to feel like you have some validity in what you say? Like, what?
Any reviewer, commentator, critic, or public speaker for that matter who always conforms to the majority reinforced public opinion is inauthentic and fake.
I think I see what this is about now. You know, you don't want to look like the majority of people who like Doom Eternal. But, like... oh my god, dude. You are literally describing contrarian edgelords. What the fuck is wrong with you? But, you know what? I'm just going to throw a bone out there, you know? If you personally do not like Doom Eternal, you know, for what it has to offer, then that's fine. You know, just make sure you're very concise, you know, and make sure you have some sort of validity in what you're saying, because Upper Echelon Gaming is an example as to why you shouldn't be just ringing as to why Doom Eternal is bad game. My Doom not good. Just stop acting like a fucking ape, please.
Stupid cat, retarded cat. What am I gonna do with all this money? Unnecessary cash, let it rain cash.